Have you seen his comments? No. Or he basically very heavily pushed back on you, saying that there were no negotiations. And then
I never said there were no negotiations. I never said that. I said, were they talking to Jon Jones? They talked to everybody. Everybody was talked to. Not one word of what I said was not true about the whole Jon Jones thing. And how many times have I sat up here and said, he's not fighting at the White House? Have you guys not all seen the video of the dude with the meta glasses on when he didn't know he was being filmed, telling them that his hips are shot and he needs hip replacement? Did you not see the videos of him running on the flag football game? And what did I say that wasn't true? Jon's the greatest of all time. No way in hell Jon Jones is going to be booked for the White House card.
I tell you that Jon Jones at 4:24 p.m. posted on X that he would like to be released from the UFC. Hey everyone, I wanted to address Dana White's comments from this past weekend because the truth matters to me and the fans. Dana, you were heated about why I'm not on the White House card, but let's clear something up. My team and I were actually negotiating with the UFC for that fight. Real negotiations. I even came down from my original number, and what it was I offered in return, I was lowballed. Yes, I have arthritis in my hip and it's painful, but that doesn't mean I can't fight. So let me get this straight. If I had accepted the lowball offer, suddenly my hip would be fine and I'd be on the White House card. That doesn't make sense. I even received stem cell treatment last week to get ready for the White House card, and training camp was scheduled to start today. I was preparing to be ready. I understand business deals fall through sometimes, but going out publicly and saying things that aren't true isn't right. After everything I've given to the UFC, the years, the title defenses, the fights, hearing that I'm done is disappointing, especially when as of recently as Friday, UFC was calling me trying to get me on that White House card for a much lower number. If the UFC truly feels like I'm done, then I respectfully ask to be released from my contract today. No more spins, no more games. Thank you to the real fans who know what's up. Bones out. So, back to back, you have a tweet from Ronda Rousey, who's one of the faces of the UFC, saying, F you. And then you have Jon Jones, who I appreciate, backed up everything I said around 3 hours ago, saying we were negotiating. I was lowballed, meaning he believes he was lowballed.
But here's the cold hard truth. If Jon Jones's demands are not being met for the biggest fight in history, they're not going to be met for the biggest fight in history.
The MMA world has exploded after a heated public clash between Jon Jones and Dana White over the controversial cancellation of a potential fight tied to the historic Ultimate Fighting Championship event at the White House. What was supposed to be one of the biggest spectacles in combat sports suddenly turned into a war of words between one of the greatest fighters in history and the most powerful promoter in the sport. Fans expected fireworks inside the octagon, but instead they got drama unfolding across press conferences, social media, and headlines.
So grimy, when the real answer is like, dude, just pay the money. Pay the money. You're spending $60 million to hold an event at the White House. We know why. Just pay it. Make something good happen, or something that the fans want to see.
The drama started when Dana White spoke at a post-fight press conference and firmly shut down the idea that Jon Jones was ever going to be part of the White House fight card. White insisted that while conversations may have happened with many fighters, Jones was never truly under consideration. In fact, White claimed he had already told Jones's legal team that the fight was never going to happen, despite Jones publicly suggesting negotiations were ongoing.
Dana, you talked about you don't want to say what fight fell out, which is fair enough, but there is obviously...
Well, there's weird circumstances around it that we probably shouldn't talk about.
Okay. There is speculation, of course, that it's Jon Jones.
No, it's not.
Was Jon
Ever, which I told you guys 100,000 times, was Jon Jones even remotely in my mind to fight at the White House. I wouldn't. First of all, I've told you why I wouldn't do it. And number two, some guy with meta glasses on filmed him talking about his hips, that his hips are so bad. And I don't know if you guys saw that flag football game where he can barely run. Jon Jones he retired because of his hips. He's got arthritis in his hips. Apparently he's been doctors say he should have hip.
According to White, one of the biggest reasons behind the decision was Jones's health. The UFC president pointed to serious hip problems, including arthritis that doctors have reportedly said may require hip replacement surgery. White even referenced videos circulating online that showed Jones struggling to run during a flag football game. From White's perspective, putting Jones in such a massive spotlight for a historic event was simply too risky.
So,
okay.
Add that on top of all the other reasons that I wouldn't. The Jon Jones thing is bullshit. I'm not saying they weren't talking to Jon Jones and that Jon Jones wasn't interested in the fight. And what was even crazier is Jon Jones came out and was like, I'm in negotiations right now for the White House fight, after I had already sent a text to his lawyer saying, never going to happen ever.
Is it fair to say then Jon Jones is retired and this is the end of his time?
Yes.
But Jon Jones wasn't about to let those comments slide. Soon after White's remarks made headlines, Jones took to social media with a long and emotional statement pushing back on nearly everything the UFC boss said. In his message, Jones insisted that real negotiations had been taking place between his team and the UFC regarding the White House fight. He said the talks were serious enough that he even lowered his original asking price in an effort to make the deal happen. Jones also addressed the health concerns directly. Yes, he admitted he has arthritis in his hip, but he strongly rejected the idea that it meant he couldn't fight. In fact, Jones revealed he had recently undergone stem cell treatment and had already scheduled a training camp because he believed the fight was close to becoming reality. According to Jones, the UFC's explanation simply didn't make sense.
So that entire monologue that Dana just gave, the minute-long monologue, is full of contradictions. Number one, he says that part of the reason, and I remember I sat down with Dana and interviewed him, and he said Jon was not going to be a part of the card. He said that Jon was unreliable, that he had trepidation about putting Jon in a main event after the Tom Aspinall situation. If that is the reason, that's what Dana should have said, which I think it still is the reason that Dana doesn't want to put on a Jon Jones fight. It isn't because Jon has arthritis in his hips. I have seen Dana trot out Stipe Miocic at 40 plus and looking like dog shit for Jon Jones, as long as they can get out there. I've seen Dana allow Michael Bisping to fight with one eye for the back half of his career and become a champion with one eye. So I've seen fighters be compromised going into fights. I've seen Dana allow fighters to come in on 4 hours notice. Dan Ige, hello. And it isn't anything to do, in my opinion, with this hip arthritis thing. Like, Dana's not like, well, I'm just looking out for Jon and his hip problems. Bullshit. This is clear to me that the reason he didn't want Jon on this card is that he turned down Tom Aspinall, that he turned him down after Jon said he would fight Tom Aspinall for the $30 million.
The real issue, Jones claims, was money. The former heavyweight champion says the UFC offered him a deal he considered a lowball offer, far below what he believed he deserved for headlining such a historic event. Jones pointed out the contradiction. If he had accepted the lower pay, suddenly his hip injury would supposedly no longer be an issue. To him, that logic didn't add up.
And what was I offered in return? I was lowballed. There we go. Again, we'll keep going through this, but this is what I think it really came down to, is that Dana probably instructed and/or the matchmakers knew that there was only going to be one offer to Jon Jones based on the fact that Jon had, quote unquote, screwed them over. And to be honest, Jon did with the Tom Aspinall fight. They had an agreement and Jon went back on it. And so they were going to give him a taste of his own medicine. This feels like revenge.
Frustrated by the situation, Jones took things even further by publicly asking to be released from his UFC contract. In his statement, he wrote that if the company truly believes he's finished as a fighter, then it should simply let him go. The message ended with a blunt closing line that summed up his frustration with the situation. No more spins, no more games.
You look at that and go, man, that guy's like 37, 38 years old. He had this opponent named Francis who left. Now he's got this opponent named Tom, and we don't even know if Tom will have the belt by then. For Tom to have the belt by 2027 would mean that Tom has to set a heavyweight record for title defenses. Right, all of a sudden it starts to get strange. You didn't have the evidence that Alex Pierre was going to come into the weight class. Because I can now tell you that. I can now give you that clue. Is Jon Jones going to fight again? Well, let me give you a clue. He's not going to fight in 2026. And it's not an opportunity of going, hey, I changed my mind. Look, it's all cool in the gang. You know, we rethought this and I came in a little bit strong and the model has changed and I'm good for the fight with Tom. It's not an option.
This feud is particularly shocking because of who Jon Jones is in the sport. With a legendary career that includes championships across multiple divisions and a professional record of 28-1, Jones is widely considered one of the greatest fighters in MMA history. His most recent fight came in 2024 when he defeated Stipe Miocic for the heavyweight title, further cementing his legacy.
And I feel for him. He wanted on the White House card. To our knowledge that we've been given, I understand that things are kept, but from our knowledge, that was all that he asked for. He did not come in with some $30 million price tag or something ridiculous, and I imagine there was a little bit of a pain in the ass behind the scenes, but he had still made an ask, and he's doing a number of great things. And a guy that he smoked in 4 minutes got the opportunity. I mean, I could feel for Jon in that spot. But what do you do? I mean, if you had the power, what would you do? You're not going to put him in there against Tuivasa or Derek Lewis. You're not going to put him in there against Volkov. What story are you telling? Where are you going to go? Jon is going to have to fight for a belt. That belt is going to have to be defended against Tom, which was an idea that we had 5 months ago and didn't.
Meanwhile, the White House event itself is still moving forward, but without Jones. The card is expected to feature a lightweight title unification bout between Ilia Topuria and Justin Gaethje as the main event, while Alex Pereira faces Cyril Gane in a major heavyweight clash. While those are big fights, many fans believe the event lost its biggest potential storyline when the Jones situation collapsed.
And now we find out about Jon Jones and the fact that the UFC basically didn't want to pay him anywhere near the amount that could even be considered for this card. We're hearing numbers closer to Conor Benn, which is about $15 million, and Jon Jones obviously and his team not even entertaining that. Now, over the last couple of days, Jon Jones has been a little bit public on social media. There was a very strange video yesterday of him in his bedroom just being like, I'm so upset, and then sending out some weird tweets as he does. And then today, him basically putting out this massive tweet and talking about how he basically wants his release from the UFC. He felt like Dana White's comments about him at the post-fight press conference were upsetting to him about the arthritis, the retiring, and all of that. What do you make of where this whole Jon Jones situation ended up? And what is your thoughts on the UFC not really entertaining paying him that kind of money for this Pereira fight? Because there's two things, right? Maybe Jon Jones could have accepted the whatever $15 million and taken this fight. It's a favorable fight for him.
The MMA community is now split. Some believe Dana White made the right decision, arguing that Jones's injury issues and unpredictable history made him too risky for such a high-profile event. Others think the UFC simply didn't want to pay the massive purse required to bring the sport's biggest star back for a once-in-a-lifetime show. Either way, the situation has exposed a clear breakdown in trust between fighter and promotion.
Look, anyone who has seen me talk at all on this show, on MK, on
Of course.
anywhere MMA fighting, am never going to defend Jon Jones. I'm just simply not. But if your takeaway from this story is anything negative towards Jon Jones, you're putting your angry points in the wrong location, man. Like I actively do not like Jon Jones. That is a thing I've been very forthright with. Mm-hmm. And if I were in Jon Jones's camp, I am not sure I would have made this same determination that Jones and the Cowell brothers and did. but I do not blame him for this determination at all. The blame for this not happening falls squarely on the UFC because they are making $1.1 billion a year. Jon Jones is asking for a small pittance.
And that's what makes this story so fascinating. On one side, you have Dana White insisting the fight was never even close to happening. On the other, Jon Jones says negotiations were real, and the UFC simply refused to pay what he was worth. Until more details come out, fans are left with two completely different versions of the same story, and no clear answer about who's telling the truth.
It's ludicrous. Like, it is an outright ludicrous thing. And it exists because they do not have to. And that's the thing I need to be very clear about, because I'm sure people come in and, you know, carry water for the UFC because, I mean, I've never seen a company on earth with more free PR people than the UFC has. Maybe Elon Musk, who are just going to be like, yeah, I get it. The UFC does not have to pay him this money. I don't care. I am not a UFC accountant. I am not a UFC shareholder. I don't frankly give a fuck about the UFC's business, and neither should you. That is not your job. So why do you care? You are a fan of fighting, ostensibly. And as a fan, I can be upset that the UFC has just decided.
What do you think about this whole situation? Did the UFC really lowball Jon Jones, or was Dana White right to move on and build the White House card without him? And more importantly, have we actually seen the last fight of Jon Bones Jones?